Earlier this year, BetVictor carried out a study where they ranked every away day in English football. I've taken their results from the Championship away days that they ranked, and we're going to be putting them all up against each other in a 1 to 24 table. Now, the study was carried out based on a multitude of factors which fans themselves have voted on. So it's based on things like ticket prices, the location of the ground, the stadium and infrastructure itself, food you can buy in the stadium, the quality of that, and the overall matchday experience. Each team was then given a score out of 100 based on how good the away day matchday experience is, and we're going to be reacting to those results in today's video. I'll sprinkle my own personal opinions in there as well, because I do think some sides have been done really dirty by this study. Drop in the comments down below, what do you think is the best and worst away day in the Championship? But without any further ado, let's jump in. Probably quite unsurprisingly, coming in at the bottom of the Championship and voted as the worst away day in the Championship, it is Luton Town, who only received a score of 56.05 out of 100. Now, I do think that Luton as an away day definitely has a certain charm to it that other teams further up this list definitely don't have, but while they do have that sense of uniqueness, a number of other factors that have been taken into consideration here do really hammer Luton in the overall ranking. I'm sure they'll be bumped up when they do move into their swanky new stadium, but for the time being at Kenilworth Road, they have been voted as the worst away day in the Championship. Would you agree with that? Let me know down below. Coming in 23rd place, we've then got Oxford United, who have received a slightly better score than Luton when rated on their away day. They've got a score of 61.26 out of 100, obviously. Another quite unique ground, especially for Championship standards, by the fact they've only got 3 stands in that stadium. From speaking to a lot of people that have done Oxford away so far this season, though, I have heard quite a few positive reviews, but stacked up against other Championship away days, they don't quite have that same pull. In 22nd place, I was fairly surprised that this study had Burnley so low down, but they only received a score of 64.49 out of 100. It is one that I've obviously done as a North End fan. Last time I was there, they absolutely wiped the floor with us. It was Nathan Teller who scored a hat-trick, so I was pretty miserable stood up in that away end last time. But I think Burnley's just a decent, old-school sort of away day, really. What annoys me a little bit about it is you don't get the biggest allocation of away fans in there. Obviously, they split that stand behind the goal for home and away fans. I'll be going there again at the weekend when Preston play Burnley in the Saturday early kickoff, but a score of that low down does seem quite harsh to me. Coming in 21st place, the study then had QPR with a score slightly better than Burnley's at 64.92. Now, in terms of location, things like that, you've obviously got very easy access to the rest of London from QPR. Always seems to be a bit of a Marmite away day, though, when speaking to a lot of other fans and their personal experiences of Loftus Road. I myself think it's a stadium with quite a bit of charm, but if you're in the wrong end of the ground, you're not going to get a great view of the pitch and things like that. And overall, for facilities and for some other quirks, QPR obviously don't rank quite as highly as some other clubs on this list. I've got to defend Bristol City here though, because they've been ranked 20th on this list with a score of 66.74 out of 100. Now, I've only done Bristol City away once. It was a goalless draw a few years ago, but my overall experience at Ashton Gate was pretty positive myself. I definitely have them way higher than 20th if this was my own personal list. From my own personal experience, I think the home atmosphere at Ashton Gate is decent. It's a stadium that I really like as well. Would probably rank it in my top 10 Championship stadiums personally. The area I think is really nice, and it's got quite a bit going on around the ground as well. Despite all that, they've been absolutely hammered in this overall ranking. 19th on the list, it's Portsmouth, and away day I've not been able to do as of yet. Obviously, as a North End fan, we've not really played them that much in recent history. They received a score of 67.3. I think this will be quite a popular away day for a lot of Championship fans this season who are looking to tick that off as a first time fan visiting Fratton Park, but they only received a score of 67.3, which puts them on the lower end of Championship away days. 18th on this list, it's Blackburn Rovers with a score of 67.6. weeks. To be honest, as a Preston fan, I've probably done Blackburn away more than any other away day, really. Generally speaking, it is one I always enjoy, but I think that's more a case of Preston usually bring quite a good following to Blackburn because it's so close. You get given that full away stand as well, so you can really pack that out if you're bringing a good following. Well, I do like Ewood Park. A couple of factors probably do bring this one down a little bit. Obviously, home atmosphere, which has been well documented, isn't always the best, and there's not a great deal to do around the ground from my own experience. They've been stuck in 18th on this ranking. 17th, it's Stoke City with a score of 68.25. I personally quite like Stoke away, but I can see why it wouldn't be everyone's cup of tea. There's definitely not a great deal to do in and around the football stadium, which takes a few points away. I think while the atmosphere was once absolutely booming, that's definitely come down quite a few notches in recent years. I do think it's a fun away end to always be in, albeit I've not been to Stoke since they've recently moved the away fans. I'd be interested to see if that changes anyone's perspective of it, but they come in 17th on this one. 16th on the list, we've got Cardiff. Have to admit, this is one that I have not yet done as a Preston North End fan, but a fairly solid mid-table ranking here of 68.51, all things considered. Obviously, when you're doing a away day like Cardiff, you've got easy access to a major city like Cardiff obviously is. To be fair, I have seen a few booming away ends at Cardiff over the years, thinking particularly to the Swansea fans. I remember Wolves having a really good away end there once as well. Coming in 15th place, it's Sheffield Wednesday with a score of 69.31 out of 100. Despite being one of the biggest stadiums in the Championship, Wednesday don't rank that well in terms of an overall away day experience. Now, one thing that will have absolutely hammered Wednesday in this overall ranking is just how expensive the tickets are. Sometimes visiting Hillsborough, you're looking around 40 quid for an away ticket, which is absolutely ludicrous in the Championship. Hillsborough, obviously a ground steeped in tradition, the grand scale of it and things like that, but I can definitely see why Wednesday is ranked further down because of some of those factors relating to price and things like that. I think Millwall generally ranks quite well for people, certainly in terms of London away days. They've received a fairly solid ranking on this out of 100 of 70.04. Not a happy hunting ground, the Den, for Preston over the weekend, but I think most people going to the Den always expect it to be quite a tough match, don't they? And speaking of my team Preston, we've been placed in 13th on this list with an away day ranking out of 100 of 70.87. Now, obviously, I'm going to be very biased speaking as a Preston fan, but I really like Deepdale. I can't really comment on it as an away fan because I've never experienced it from that perspective, but the big draws to Deepdale are ticket prices are usually pretty affordable. If the demand is there, you will be given that whole end behind the goal as well, so you can take over 5,000 travelling fans and generate a really good atmosphere in the away end. Location-wise, it is a little bit of a trek to the train station to the football stadium, but you're not that far away from the city centre. Even in away day rankings, Preston don't manage to escape mid-table. But slap bang in the middle of the table, it's actually Watford with an away day score of 71.37. In terms of Championship stadiums, I quite like Vicarage Road, to be honest with you. Attendances there are pretty good and that will lead to a better atmosphere overall. Always takes away when there's lots of empty seats dotted around, but generally speaking, Watford's attendances over the last decade have been pretty consistent. As an away fan as well, it seems to be quite a decent experience judging off that score. 11th on this list, we've got Middlesbrough with an away day score of 72.25. I've done Middlesbrough a couple of times. I want to say both of them have been Tuesday nights actually, so I don't think I've done Borough away yet on a Saturday 3 PM, which is when you get that proper away day experience, but it is a ground that I quite like, to be honest with you. Home atmosphere I think is really good. You get a good bit of banter between where the away fans are and that section of home fans behind the goal as well. That ranks pretty well for away fans, which can understand good facilities there and things like that at the Riverside. Coming in 10th place, we've then got Leeds United with an away day score of 72.74. Now, Leeds is an interesting one. I think the overall matchday experience at Ellen Road has really improved in recent years compared to how it was, say, maybe 10 or so years ago. One thing that always took away from Leeds in the past was how expensive it was, but the club have been quite proactive in how they approach ticket prices now. For example, Leeds have been doing a price match with other Championship Championship clubs saying, if you're happy to charge Leeds travelling fans this amount, we'll do the same when your fans come to Ellen Road, which I think is a nice touch. Obviously, you get a really good atmosphere there in the away end as well. You're right next to the rowdy home fans. Swansea away ranks really well on this scale as well. That's up in 9th with a score of 72.86. Have to admit, this is one of the away days which I've not yet done as a Preston fan. We never tend to take that many travelling fans to Swansea. Obviously, it is quite a trek, Swansea to Preston. Good facilities there at the Liberty though. Obviously, it's a very nice and modern ground. And going off that score, a lot of people seem to enjoy it as an away day as well. 8th on the list is Hull City. I definitely think Hull and the overall away day match day experience has got tremendously better in recent years. That's got a score of 72.91. Quite like the Hull away end, to be honest with you. I've had quite a few decent away days there as a North End fan. From my experiences, there's never been a great deal immediately around the stadium, but in the stadium itself, I think you always get a decent amount of banter with the Hull fans. One massive tick for Hull as well is they definitely have the best food in the Championship. The food facilities in that ground, oh my god, they've really notched up a level in recent years. I can see why that would be quite a popular away day, even just for that reason. Coming in 7th place, you've got Sunderland with a score of 73.14. I've been to Sunderland a few times. I've always quite enjoyed it, to be honest with you. Obviously, by far the biggest ground in the Championship. You definitely understand that scale when you're inside the ground as well. What takes away from it a little bit is the placement of the away fans. I'm never that much of a fan when the away fans are just absolutely in the gods, and you never really get to have that same banter with the home fans because of that. But in terms of stadium location, you're not a million miles away from Sunderland City Centre, which I think is nice. Facilities are obviously really good, and home atmosphere is usually pretty lively as well. The 6th best away day in the Championship has been voted as Norwich City with a score of 73.21 out of 100. I can definitely see why Norwich would be quite a popular away day for a lot of Championship fans. I think quite a few do a night over when you do Norwich away because it's quite isolated from a lot of other places. Obviously, you've got there a really nice part of the country. It's a ground which Norwich fans tend to sell out most weeks. A nice stadium in Carrow Road as well. You've got good access to a lot of other stuff going on around the stadium as well. I can understand why Norwich will be quite popular with a lot of people. Now, I've got to be honest, I was a little bit surprised that Coventry was this high up on the list, but that's been voted as the 5th best away day in the Championship with a score of 74.26. Now, you are given a good away allocation when you do visit Coventry, and that club has definitely brought a lot more to the table in recent years. Obviously, all the troubles that fan base has been through in recent years, I can't imagine Coventry away would have been a very fun experience for an away fan, you know, 6 or 7 years ago, for instance. But these days, they're selling a lot more tickets. The home atmosphere is really good. Ground is nice and modern, albeit there's not a great deal going on around the ground. That's always sort of been my experience with Coventry away. But when you do bring a good following there, it is quite a good away end with how sort of steep that can be. The 4th best away day in the Championship has been voted as Plymouth Argyle. Totally get why that one would be up there. Again, another one which I'm sure is popular for away fans doing a night over in Plymouth and things like that. That's got a score of 75.63 out of 100, obviously. Plymouth fans always selling out that home end. I'm sure they're due a stadium expansion soon. They rank really well on most of the away day metrics. Voted as the 3rd best away day in the Championship, you've got Derby County with a score of 76.47. Listen, Derby, it's in a really good area of the country where the access is good to most other places. It's obviously a nice modern stadium. Facilities are really good. Home atmosphere, from my experience of always going to Derby, has been really good as well. You've got quite a few options outside the ground as well. I can see why that would be a popular one. Voted as the 2nd best away day in the Championship, you've got the Hawthorns at West Brom. That's got a score of 77.8 out of 100. Have to admit, West Brom away is always one that I've quite enjoyed, to be honest with you. Although I must admit, all the times I've done West Brom away, I'm sure the vast majority of them have been Tuesday nights. I think I might have done one Saturday 3 PM at West Brom away, but even then I'm not totally sure, thinking off the top of my head. I've definitely done 2 or 3 midweek games at West Brom. It is an away end that I really like though, to be honest with you. If anything, I wish they gave away fans a little bit more of an allocation there, but really nice stadium, good facilities. I can see why that would rank quite highly for a lot of people. But coming out as the outright best away day in the Championship, it's been voted as Sheffield United with an overall score of 80.24 out of 100, and I can understand why that one would be at the top. For me personally, it would probably be, if not at the top, very close to. As a North End fan, I've done Sheffield United away quite a few times. Obviously, the city of Sheffield, I think, is quite nice. You've always got quite a bit going on there as well. Home atmosphere, from my experience there at Bramall Lane, is always really good with the pre-match anthem and things like that. I don't think that away end is always the very best for generating an atmosphere because you're all quite spread out, really, aren't you? But overall, I can't really have that many complaints about Sheffield United being top. It's definitely one of my favourite away days personally. But guys, there you have it. There was every Championship club and how they've been ranked as an away day experience. Do you agree with those rankings? Do let me know down below. This was a study that was carried out by Betfair earlier in the year, so I'd be interested to get some takes on whether or not you agree with those findings. Other than that though, guys, that will now wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you did go to enjoy, make sure to leave a like, and I'll see you all in the next one.